The views and opinions expressed on this program do not reflect the company, owners, management, staff, clients, or partners.
It's Thursday, the 15th day of July, 2021. Welcome to the Daily Hour, brought to you by Medical House, One Communications, and Lindos. I'm Jamal Hartman, along with Michaela Ian, as well as Leanna Lambert, who will be with us a bit later to bring you the latest in her news break. Michaela.
Hey.
How are you today?
You like my hair?
I do. Awesome cut. Wow, yo, what's up, player?
Yeah, I just, little change, go back to my roots, which is I love my hair short. I feel my best when my hair's short. So yeah, shout out to Samela at Crown by Sam who did this. It's
Nice.
amazing, right?
Maybe she could hook me up. I don't have
maybe
hook me up. A nice cut. I look, a lot goes into a cut, and
yes,
it changes the way we are personality. So I love it. I'm sure the audience loves it as well. I'm sure the compliments are probably pouring in. But good morning, everyone, and thanks for making us part of your daily routine. Another good one today as the chairman of the Wage Commission, Mr. Cordell Riley, stops by. We're going to be discussing living wage, a conversation that it hasn't gone quiet. It just hasn't gotten as much attention lately.
Yeah.
Pandemic. The Daily Play is a name that plays, so Michaela is guessing a geography question. Don't forget, if you get the answer before Michaela, which is pretty tough to do, you will win something. So I'm just saying, she plays to win, folks. It's just not about letting anybody take her crown. So we have a lot to discuss, Michaela.
Yes,
a lot to discuss, and Danica Butterfield saying looks good. They love you. Carla John, it looks gorgeous. They are on it, but a lot to discuss this morning as there's been some things going on in Bermuda, and on this show, we love to have conversations with the audience about current events, issues of the day. Obviously, we have Leanna, who does one of the best jobs in Bermuda in presenting, the news to Bermudians and giving you insight as to what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
That's they're obviously. I'm not going to say much on it. I don't know how much you have to add on it, Michaela, but there's literally a war of words per se going on between the government of Bermuda and a private citizen. And at the end of the day, I'll make it very short. I feel like this war of words, this back and forth, is really coming across as a distraction from the actual cause.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be in the best interest of both parties not to publicly go back and forth. It seems like someone's ego got hurt. It seems like the other's trying to prove that it wasn't mine. It seems like there's a power trip going on. Bermuda, the premier of Bermuda will be on tomorrow. And as I stated, this conversation isn't going to be about the pandemic, quarantines, or vaccines. There's a problem that's going to hit us in the ass much harder than the pandemic. And that's your economic well-being.
Yeah.
It's time for us to stay focused on the issues of the day and not be led by everything that seems trendy.
Yeah, I just think it's also very important to remember, and maybe I'm playing a little devil's advocate here, but the government is always going to sell you the narrative that they want you to believe. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter who the government is. It doesn't matter who the premier is. Mm-hmm. That's what it is. And the government generally has credibility. and the government knows that they have credibility. So regardless of whatever happened, whatever he said, she said, the government is always going to put out what it wants you to believe. So I just want people to remember that.
Indeed. And I think that's a key point. I don't want to let my personal feelings in any of this, cloud anyone's judgment. But I find it hard because of what I dealt with multiple governments to trust anything coming from a government. But at the same time, a private citizen who I don't know personally, I can say, well, I can relate to that, but at the end of the day, they could be trying to save face as well. But that's all I'm going to say on that. I think we have an issue that really I want to touch on, Michaela, to do with private establishments. And this has nothing to do with Linda's, who are a proud partner of this show, who truthfully just renewed for another couple of years. Let's give a round of applause for that. Let's find a applause.
We love Linda.
We are very proud that Linda's have renewed for another couple of years with this program. But this has nothing to do with Linda's, although they were involved yesterday. This has everything to do with people understanding what their rights are and what policies are. For years, I remember I was young and I would go to nightclubs, right? And I would say, look, why can't I come in? Oh, remember back when you were going through things and they were saying, oh, no white tees or bed pens, or there was just a restaurant, a black-owned restaurant in Chicago I was reading about yesterday, where black people are mad at them because they have this dress code, right? And they're like, no, just because we're black doesn't mean we can't have a dress code to come in our establishment, right? I say this because I found the video, regardless who's doing it. I think it's important for us to understand and recognize that private establishments can develop their own policies, right? To tell you, no, we don't allow this. No, there is a line. If it's a protected class, then it becomes discrimination. What is a protected class, you may ask? Protected class, race, it could be gender, it could be sexual orientation. It all depends on what the protected classes are in your jurisdiction. But folks, you cannot go into a private establishment that has policies and try to dictate to them what their policies, whether or not their policies should apply to you and not others.
Yeah, that's the thing. And I mean, when we talk about masks, for instance, like there's a mask mandate in Bermuda that you have to wear a mask when you go indoors. I know that in the US, there are many states that this doesn't exist any longer, right? Like in Texas, I think they wrote it back a couple months ago because a couple friends of mine were horrified. And so I know many people in the US who, when they are inside, they still will wear a mask because they feel safer that way. So in Bermuda, even if the law gets changed for whatever reason, the private establishment still has a right to say, this is what we want, this is what we're doing, this is our business. And you have to remember, in the US as well, there are many businesses like, I want to say Walmart was one of them, Whole Foods, CVS, I can't remember the other companies. They were like, okay, so the governor's going to say you don't need to wear a mask, you still need to wear one in this store, or you don't need to come in, point blank, done, So I agree with that. I think that as customers, consumers, we have a right to decide where we're going to spend our money.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, it's like, you can't roll up in somebody's store and be like, I'm not following your rules.
Yeah.
That's not how it goes.
Yeah, I'm not quite understanding, and I think I was once told, and I've been one who has been in many heated discussions, but I remember being told when I was younger, Michaela, trouble will always exist. You don't have to go and look for it. And I feel like when we're doing some of these things, like yesterday, it seemed like a tour because it was Lindo's, then it was Marketplace, then it was Specialty Inn, and then Empire Grocery. And Empire Grocery actually handled this situation where they asked the lady in the video to go outdoors and then they'll serve her. I think we have to understand that what the difference between, and I think this is the challenging part in our community, the difference between rights and privileges. I'm not quite sure we understand the difference between rights and privileges.
Yeah.
Audience, what are your thoughts? Do you think private establishments have a right to deny you entry for not wearing a mask? Do you agree with that? Do you believe that a private establishment has the right to deny you entry for not wearing a mask? And it could be anything. I mean, I remember we went to a restaurant. Might have been the first time my mom and my niece came to visit us in New York. And my wife took us to a restaurant, and I was mad because I had on a sleeveless, I had muscles back then, so I was showing off my arms. And they made me put on a shirt, and I was not happy about it. But that's a private establishment, and that's their rule, right?
Exactly.
That's the
Yeah.
rule.
That's the thing. Like, there's this popular place in Houston. Oh God, I think it's called Turkey Leg something. I can't remember, but it's like a cult favorite restaurant. They have like these ginormous turkey legs, but they do it in like all these funky ways. So you can get like rasta pasta turkey leg or whatever, all these different ways. But they have a very strict dress code. Like, they're like, you cannot come here if you have on a bonnet or a do-rag. You cannot come in this place if you have on a bathrobe, if you have on a swimsuit, if you have your stomach exposed, et cetera, et cetera. And people like got pissed off about it. But at the end of the day, there's always a line because people want the food and they have a right to say what they want and don't want in their restaurant.
Indeed. Let's go to some comments, Kales. Elizabeth.
A lot of people are out here trying to start a revolution, but in actual fact are watering down the real movement that people are fighting for. Oh, yeah.
And that's what I began with this morning, folks. If you're just tuning in, that's what I began with. We cannot allow certain distractions to take away from the actual cause. Everyone is like, everyone doesn't need to be a hero.
No.
Everyone doesn't need to be out there. Like the way it works, and if you look at the history of movements, one person is the head and the others kind of, do their stuff behind that person.
Yeah.
Like everyone's out there trying to do something different. Ramon Smith says, not now, there's stores now post signs stating if you are vaccinated, you don't have to wear a mask. And if unvaccinated, please wear a mask, leaving people to do the right moral thing. Explain further.
He's talking about in the US.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, I live in Florida and pretty much,
wide open.
Yeah, it's Florida. Philip Trott says, this is nothing new. Private establishments have always been able to refuse service to whoever they want to. No shoes, no service has been a policy in some businesses for years. Well, let me just go back to Ramon Smith's as well. Ramon Smith's comment, I want to address this in this respect. It seems like some form of discrimination, but most policies are, but they're just not protected classes. So if someone wants to deny you entry for not being vaccinated, mind you, they don't really know because they're not asking for your medical records, right? But it's no different from denying you if you're wearing a t-shirt versus a button-up shirt. It's really no difference. The only difference is they're doing it basically because they're telling you they're doing it for medical reasons to protect their other patrons, right?
Right.
Again, it's a private establishment. We have the right to go to other establishments. The question is, do you think private establishments have a right to deny you entry for not wearing a mask? Yes. Go ahead, Kales.
So I will say I get irritated with outdoor establishments where I have to walk up and have on a mask and then walk to my seat with a mask. And then as soon as I sit down, I can take off my mask. I know that they're following whatever the guidelines the Ministry of Health is giving out, but that just seems so silly to me. Of course, if I get up and go inside to use the bathroom, fine. But like, if we're outside, like, and the whole thing is outside, I don't see the point.
It's a bit over the top.
Yeah.
Anthony Butler says, of course. Danica Butterfield and Michelle White-Kills.
The funny thing is that she thought people would actually boycott them. Yeah, no. Yes, businesses are obligated to keep both staff and patrons safe. These days, safe means safe from COVID. Yeah, pretty much.
And it looks like a consensus. Manuela John, Esther K. Harvey, Marquita Lee, Zalika Levrock, Jennifer Butterfield, Kivane Haynes. Basically, yeah, everyone seems to say yes. They seem to say yes. So it looks like there's a consensus amongst people. Now, see, this is where you get me, though. Are restaurants doing this to protect other staff and patrons? Or are establishments doing this? I mean,
I think they're following the guidelines
incredible
that the Ministry of
guideline.
Health has said, because
So
otherwise they'll get shut down.
they'll get shut down. So some are doing it not because they agree with it, folks, right? Some people are doing it because they just want to stay open. They don't necessarily agree. It's kind of like what Eugene Dean said regarding the police the other day. They don't want to be here. That's according to Eugene Dean, but they have to based on their job. So,
Right.
it's a tough one, man. It's a tough one. Dr. Kendra Lee Pierman says people feel unable to now show their rebellion. Well, it reminds me of Donald Trump and his supporters. In 2016, 2015, leading up to 2016, people were almost ashamed. They didn't want you to know they were a Trump supporter. Right now, people will happily wear a Trump shirt. So I think we're now emboldened based on his leadership. Bobby Singkills.
You can't wear a helmet in the store and no one makes off. Some people are just attention seekers and need to get over themselves. So yeah. Yeah. They're right. No one does.
Some people seem to want to be the story. Kenny Monkman says, a business has the right to set their standards for entry, just like people have the right not to conduct their business there. And I think that's it right there. That pretty much sums it up, right?
Yeah, I think it's really straightforward. Like, if you don't want to, like, I personally love grocery shopping, but I don't like wearing a mask in the grocery store because I take time. It's hard. It's a lot of people. So what do? I get grocery delivery. Like, it's an easy solution. I'm never going to rock up to Linda's and be like, I'm not going to wear my mask. Of course not. Like, of course not. I'm just going to wear my mask and deal with it and try to be out of there in 20 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, I'm not a mask wearer. I'll be honest. I would rather not go into establishments with a mask. But if I am, and that's their policy, I'm going to put my mask on. That's me. I mean, that's just me. Now, if I'm not a mask wearer and I needed to go to Linda's, I'm going to put my mask on. It's they're I was once told, choose your battles, right?
Exactly.
We don't have to enter every argument that we're invited to. Invites are, you can reject one the same way how we reject wedding invites so that we don't have to buy a gift. We can do reject the invites to go
to. But that's the thing. It's like pick your battles. Not everything has to be a thing. It like legit does not have to be a thing. If you don't like the rule, don't go. It's that simple. Like, for instance, I've really been trying to take my kid to Disney World. Well, we were supposed to go last Easter. And I've been trying to take my kid to Disney World for a year so he can go to Animal Kingdom, so he can see the elephants and stuff because he's obsessed with elephants. Guess what? You got to wear a mask outside. So I'm just not going to go.
Yeah.
Because
that to me is just so weird, wearing masks outside. But again,
I mean, maybe they've changed it since, but that's what the CDC guidance was. And for me, I'm not taking my children outside in Orlando in the heat to look at elephants and things when they have to wear a mask. I'm not doing it. So I'm waiting until
you made the decision not to go.
Exactly. I'm not like rocking up to Disney World, protesting at the gate. I'm not wearing my mask. I'm not writing to the CEO. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just going to go when there's no longer a mask mandate. It's that simple.
Michelle Smith says, yes, they have the right. However, at some point, we have to revisit the mask mandate because is it really necessary at this point? Here's the thing. Honestly, Michelle, I don't disagree. I mean, I think, we have to learn to live with it. We've said this on and on. What I will say, and I hope this stands true, I feel like what COVID has helped me realize is many people should have been wearing masks all this time. Who? Restaurant service, cooks, and chefs. When you think about it, those are the only people that I'm like, no, this actually makes sense. People in those positions. So no, I agree. I agree. Nathaniel Sheen says, I will not boycott. I think she was so rude. Ramon Smith, Chaos.
Bermuda has to be protected as a small community. Bermuda cannot handle 2,000 people in the ICU. So things must be in place for a little while longer. If not, open Bermuda fully up and see what may happen if this is the case. See, like, again, I don't have a problem wearing a mask indoors because it's an indoor confined space. I feel more comfortable even though I'm fully immunized. However, when it comes to outdoor stuff, that's when I have the issue. Like, don't tell me I have to wear a mask to go to a party. Like, stop.
Tanea Alexandria says, I think people should be able to get medical exemptions for wearing a mask, just like there's a medical exemption for quarantine. I see what she did there. Bermuda wasn't to keep up with the rest of the world, but are still so far behind.
Yeah.
No, I agree, Tanae. Definitely. I mean, a medical exemption. There are certain people that can't get the vaccine for medical. There are certain people that probably can't wear masks, and I totally agree with you. Now, how does that apply? Do you show the medical exemption when you go to the establishments? How does that work? We have to bring Leanna in. Lee, welcome to Thursday. How are you?
Good morning and St. George's. That's all.
Yes, blue, 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 blue.
Everyone has a little touch of blue in today, huh?
Yes, we do.
All right, all right. Well, look, we have an important conversation coming up with Mr. Cordell Riley, a conversation that I think the pandemic has taken us away from, but I'm pretty sure you're going to be addressing some things in your news that were a hot topic and became meme worthy yesterday on the news, on social media.
Definitely social media worthy. I'll get to it. That's all I'm going to say.
You know what I'll say before you go into your news? Honestly, this time of year, and I was being serious yesterday. Like, I'm so used to like picking fights with red and blue Somerset people, right? And I actually really miss it. Like I Leslie White, a friend that's on Facebook, she said something yesterday, and I'm just like, yo, it's July. There's no match banter. So
no. Don't believe that. I don't know if everyone who's tuned in has seen this photo and meme going around about this candle.
Yes,
you guys see the candle.
Yeah.
I'm not impressed with that. I want to go on record as saying that I am not impressed.
No, I'm not either. So folks, Leanna's going to do the news. We're going to bring Mr. Riley on. Don't forget, I'm celebrating 2 years alcohol free today, right, folks? So we're going to do some giveaways. Thank you. So Lee, we're going to go over to you for the news. Let's dance our way into the news if nobody knows. Let's do this. Let's get people in the cut match spirit, you know? Let's get people in the cut match spirit. You know, I mean, Lee, over to you.
Thanks, Jamal and Michaela, and good morning to all of those who are tuned in with us this morning, both locally and abroad. I hope everyone is having a great start to their day. I'm Leanna Lambert, and it's time for the Daily Hour News Break. Taking a look at today's top stories, it was surely a sight to see as around 50 people gathered outside the LF Wade International Airport yesterday after social media posts suggested that Antonio Belvedere may refuse to comply with quarantine laws when he arrived on a flight from New York. Now, just yesterday, the police commissioner, as well as the health minister, said that those seeking to break the mandatory quarantine rules will be punished to the full extent of the law. Before emerging from the airport, a joint press release was released from the Bermuda Police Service and the Ministry of Health saying that Mr. Belvedere met the requirements of the quarantine amendment order, having arrived with an approved Bermuda COVID-19 travel authorization form, which they claim fell within an exemptive category, namely medically vulnerable as certified by a licensed physician or psychologist. Therefore, he was able to quarantine at home for the mandatory 14-day period. However, Mr. Belvedere, known to the public as Chef Toto, took to social media to dispel the myth, claiming that he did not, in fact, pay for or complete his travel authorization form. Now, he did say after he stepped out of the airport that he could not comment based on the advice of his lawyer, but gestured to the crowd that he must wear a monitoring bracelet until his quarantine days are completed before heading to a private limo, which took him home. Now, since the start of the mandatory quarantine program, a total of 149 travelers have been quarantined. In other news, the executive director of Age Concern Bermuda has hit out this week at government, accusing them of consistently falling short on addressing long-term care for seniors, Claudette Fleming spoke after the continued shortage of hospital beds at King Edward Memorial Hospital was revealed on Monday. Now, delays in discharging elderly patients were among the main causes she cited, including a lack of space in care homes to take seniors ready to leave the hospital. Dr. Fleming said, until we fix the long-term care situation, we can expect this to not change. Capacity of homes is not getting any greater. Belco yesterday paid tribute to the 17 employees who had lost their lives in service to the company over the years. The memorial was in celebration of Safety and Health Work Day. Now, the first employee recognized passed in 1928, with the most recent employee passing in 2003. The memorial, with all the names of those who had lost their lives, was unveiled with people gathering to pay their respects and lay flowers. You can view the memorial on Serpentine Road in front of Belco's main entrance. And here's something that's pretty cool. NASA and the Department of Energy have come together to offer 2 virtual events for middle and high school students next week. On Monday morning, NASA will offer students a virtual tour of its launch facility at Wallops Island in Virginia. The site was used in May to launch the 4-stage Black Brant 7th rocket, which was visible from Bermuda. Now, while on Tuesday morning, students will be able to take part in a feature presentation by Ricky Arnold, an educator and astronaut who spent time on the International Space Station. Both events are free of charge and hosted by the Department of Energy. For today's weather, we have a high near 83 and a low near 75 degrees. We'll see cloudy spells that turn wet at times and a chance of thunder lingers. But by Friday, conditions are expected to improve as the trough moves out of the area, but lingering smaller showers remain nearby into the weekend. That's all for our daily hour news break. But before I go, I want to encourage everyone to head over and subscribe to our YouTube channel, as it will be the only platform to catch tomorrow's much anticipated hot topic discussion with Premier David Burt. Let's head back over to the studio with Jamal and Michaela for today's Daily Focus.
All righty, thanks so much. Oh, my bad.
There we go.
Thanks so much, Lee. Appreciate that. And don't forget, folks, make sure you go over, subscribe, as Leanna just said, to our YouTube channel so that you can catch the conversation tomorrow. We will have an extended conversation with the Premier David Burt, so we will break, our traditional standard protocol on the show, and we will have a longer conversation so that you all can engage with him as much as possible as well. So we'll try to get as many questions in as possible. And Michaela's probably going to communicate with you all sometime today to get your questions, and so that we can ensure that he engages you. Let's just say that. Yeah, that's nice.
I like the way you put that.
Lee, thanks so much. We'll see you tomorrow morning.
Thanks, guys. Have a good show.
Bye, Lee.
All righty, let's take a quick break. We'll be back with Cordell Riley. We're talking living and minimum wage. Don't go anywhere.
Mom's celebrating her 70th birthday next month. Have you noticed her age is catching up with her?
Yeah. Plus, she's having a hard time getting up and around like she's used to. I would sure hate to see her fall.
At Medical House Limited, we can help make life situations easier. We have electric beds, motorized scooters, bath stools, walkers, you name it.
Mom's been real good to us. We'll get her birthday and Christmas gifts from Medical House.
Medical House has relocated next to the Dendy Town Field, number 6 Bakery Lane, Pembroke. Telephone 292-3622.
We're welcoming back the often featured Whole Food veterans Bragg Live Food Products, renowned for their live probiotic organic raw cider vinegar and savory seasonings. Paul Bragg is the man behind the products that has originated health food stores, restaurants, and spas, and promoted nutrition education through the media, helping lay the foundation for the enlightened way we make healthful choices when we shop for and prepare food. This month we're featuring Bragg Organic Raw and Unfiltered Apple Cider Vinegar and Organic Extra Virgin Olive Oil. Lindo's, why go anyplace else?
All right, welcome back to the Big Show. Michaela Ian, I'm Jamal Hartman. It's the Daily Hour, brought to you by Medical House, One Communications, Lindo's, and our friends over at Channel 82, where you can stream this and many other locally produced shows. Another important conversation, folks. When I say share the link, this is why I want you to share it. Not because of the drama that comes with what happens yesterday, but because of the reality that we are living in, the times that we're living in. We're talking about the economy with Premier David Burke tomorrow. Today, we're talking about living and minimum wage. How will this impact each and every one of us? We've seen these fights go on. So I'm thankful and I'm grateful to welcome Mr. Cordell Riley, the chairman of the Wage Commission, on the show. Good morning, sir, and welcome to the show. How are you?
Good morning. Good morning, Jamal and Michaela. Thank you. I'm very well.
Good
All right.
morning.
Well, look, let's before Michaela, gets right into the conversation. Let's just clear something up, because this has been a conversation. If you read articles, if you look on social media, people don't know what the difference is between minimum and living wage. Just explain what the difference is between the two.
Okay, so for instance, the minimum wage, there are philosophies around the minimum wage. Um, for us, the minimum wage is sort of a line in the sand that says employers cannot pay below that. That's all it is. So it's really to stop uh, the race to the bottom and paying, um, wages that are, as someone put it, starvation wages. So the minimum wage is really a point beyond which a an employer can't pay. Living wage will take into consideration your living expenses, what you have to pay for. And therefore, it's much more detailed, and therefore, your living wage is going to be higher than your minimum wage.
Mm.
Okay. I think that makes a lot of sense and clears it up a bit. So we know that you're the chairman of the Wage Commission. Have there been any new developments since the report was issued earlier this year?
Well, we are embarking on the living wage now. So the terms of reference are that in 1 year, you bring recommendations for a minimum wage, and a year later, you bring recommendations for a living wage. So we are actively working on the living wage. Um, I am a member of the Global Living Wage Foundation, based in the UK, and it's made up of a number of countries, and they're working on that. And we get together quarterly to share, etc. And so that is the process that continues on. Right now, the only thing that's really happened is that we're looking at a couple of methods. One being the low income threshold, which was done by the Department of Statistics, and looking at having that information updated. And we're also looking at the anchor method. That's one of the better known methods of determining a living wage. In fact, the Global Living Wage Foundation set up a meeting with myself and Richard and Martha Anchor, who are the developers of the um, Anchor method for determining a living wage. So we are now getting data from the Department of Statistics that utilizes, that is the Consumer Price Index items of goods.
Mhm.
So as you're probably aware, the Consumer Price Index is made up of different goods. The anchor method utilizes, and I think the low income threshold method also utilizes the basket of goods. One of the things, or one of the reasons why the anchor method in particular uses the consumer price index is because just about every country in the world has a consumer price index, which consists of a basket of goods, and so out of which they can derive um, a minimum wage and that a person would need to purchase, and then they can compare them across countries. And so we have obviously a consumer price index. We have gotten the items of goods. The anchor method actually goes into great detail in terms of the number of calories one needs to have and which items will give you those calories
Mhm.
and nutrition. And it's based on that. So it's a very, very detailed method. There are other methods out there, but that's the ones that we're looking at currently.
That sounds
Okay.
very scientific.
Very,
Mhm.
yeah. Lots of research goes into that, it seems. So when we talk about a minimum wage that the commission recommended, do you feel that there are people who can live on the minimum wage? I know that you had three different options for the minimum wage.
Well, the minimum wage is not necessarily intended to live on. And I think Switzerland has what they call their minimum wage, but it's around about the equivalent of about $22, which is more of a wage really is not intended to live off. It's really a point that employers cannot pay below. So in the United States, it's I think it's $7.25. They're trying to move that certainly in New York at least to $15. As I think there's a push to have the national minimum wage at $15. You can argue that that's probably not something that you can live off. In Bermuda, we did recommend three. We recommended 1320, I think 1575, and 1730. And the rationale behind that is to determine if you were just looking at it as a wage floor, for instance, then you would go for the living wage. So we did get some feedback from some organizations based on the fact that they knew who you were as the members of the Wage Commission, and they represented relatively large pools of workers, and so the thinking was that we're probably at using the 1250 that was recommended in the Joint Select Committee report. Many say, "Oh yeah, we're there." If you came back with 1250, we're there. Most of them would be there. And so the 1320 is really the 1250 increase with the rate of inflation. And then the 15, I think it's 1550 or whatever it was, is based on the fact that it is 50% of the medium income. So that was about $31. So at 1550, you're at the medium, which is used as a general guide that if you are being paid below less than the medium, then you are in the poverty zone. And so there's the optics of recommending a wage that is below the poverty level. And so that's where the 1550 came in. I think it's about 55% of the median wage is really starting to get to the lower level of a living wage. And so we recommended three as opposed to one based on what the government's philosophy was. If it was just a wage floor, then they'll go up the lower. If they want to transition into a living wage, then they might want to go at the higher level, because one of the things I've learned from being on the Global Wage Foundation is that if there's a wide gap between the minimum wage and the living wage, you spend an awful lot of time closing that gap. And so if you start off knowing that, you may want to have a minimum wage at a higher level so that the gap is not that wide to close.
Interesting. So when we talk about the three different levels and we talk about the 1320, I think you said, being like the floor, if the minimum wage is set at that, I don't know what they're going to set it as, obviously, but wouldn't that be more of an excuse for employers to be like, well, this is the minimum wage, that's all the government is saying that I have to pay you, kind of thing?
Can I add to that before you answer? Because
sure,
that's my entire concern.
Yeah.
As people know, I am not a supporter of minimum wage, and I don't understand livable wage enough. And the reason I'm not a supporter, to be very clear, is that when I look at it, it always seems like the house always wins, like a casino. So, for instance, my example I like to look at is I spoke to a Bermudian business owner recently, and I was in Target. This was about 2 weeks ago. I was in a Target here in Florida, and there were 21 cash registers, and none were open. Only the self-checkout lines were open. And I said, having cashiers in Bermuda is pretty much a service to the community at this point, right? And I said, if the government begins to intervene with things like minimum wage, a couple things can happen. They can eliminate the positions and let technology take over. That's one. And then two, if that chicken sandwich cost $5 before, and now I have to pay them $15 instead of $7, then they just raise their prices. How does that, without price controls, how does it work? So that's what I wanted to add to that. Like, that's my concerns with it.
Right. I've almost forgotten what Michaela asked now.
No, I was just saying that if we have the minimum wage set at the lower tier,
All
the
right.
lower of the three, would that then encourage employers to just be like, oh, well, all I've got to pay you is $13 an hour, so that's what I'm going to pay you?
Yeah.
Right. So that, for instance, when the Employment Act came into being, um, the law stated that if you are currently getting something that is better than this, then you cannot go revert to the Employment Act, because the Employment Act was sort of the minimum standards for employment. And the minister has indicated that this is the same here, that if you're already, say, for instance, you're getting $20 an hour now, and the minimum wage comes in at 15, the employer uh, by law would not be able to then reduce your wage to 15, because that's the um, minimum wage.
Okay.
So you can have legislation coming in at the same time that sort of prevents that from happening. But then again, there's also this whole thing about whether you want to be seen as reducing your employer's wages when you're paying them before, and you apparently weren't complaining. But now you feel that you can pay them lower because you're paying them above the minimum wage. In fact, one employer had told me that the minimum wage should be at $20. He doesn't understand why employers want to pay their employees less than that. And the employer was certainly not one of these large companies. This is one of the companies that you would have thought would have been paying the minimum wage, but they were definitely arguing for a higher minimum wage around the arena of $20 an hour. Now, what happens when you have a minimum wage? So, for instance, as Jamal was saying, you bring in, say, $15 an hour, and there are a number of individuals who are being paid $10 or less right now. So that means that they've got to make it up. There's two things that come into play here. The first one is that if your business model is based on minimum, and I don't know how many people in Bermuda can survive off of, say, $750 an hour. If your business model is such that you're paying your um, employees that amount, then there is that question as to whether or not that is the correct model that you should be using, and whether or not you should be in business altogether.
Right.
The second thing, that if you are paying, say, for instance, say $13, and we come in at 15, you're almost there. Um, so how do you get that extra $2 to pay your employee? Well, you obviously will increase your wages. Um, but the thing is that the wage component is a large part of the cost of, say, a good or service being sold. It is not the only part. So, for instance, if there is a, let's use um, $12, and you have to increase it. I'm not going to work out the percentage, but in order to get to the $15, you have to increase it by, what's that, 20%. And your cost of items increase by 20%. So the restaurant can say, well, I had to increase my wages by 15%, therefore I have to increase the bill by 15%, because the wage component is only a part of it. There's the food cost, et cetera, et cetera. So if the wage component is only a part of it, and you do have to increase your wages, if everything else is remaining the same, so you may not have to increase it by the 15 or 20%, you may have to increase it by 5%. And most people will find that if you're increasing it by 5%, and that's because your employees are getting paid more, then the public's reception for that is certainly a lot higher, because it's 5% and it's going to the employee. So there's that thing. And of course, the other end of it is that we're talking about minimum wages, which means that any increase to that individual is going to be spent back in the community, which is going to um, increase consumption, and which will offers the help businesses, because that's how the economy spends, by people spending. So this is not people who have a lot of money who would just save that money or invest it, and the community doesn't get it. That money is going to circulate back into the community. So it really has been, in many cases, a win-win situation for the implementation of a minimum wage.
Right. No, I mean, I would imagine that there are quite a number of people in Bermuda who are paid less than what is being recommended. So I see how for them it would definitely be a benefit. But back to the economy and the cost, if this is implemented and employers are forced to pay their employees, maybe some of them are going to have to pay them double. Do you feel like prices will go up across the board,
Yep.
or?
Prices will go up, but the impact. I think I looked at a couple of studies, and I'm going off the top of my head because I can't remember, but
Mhm.
it may have had added, I think, around about 1% to the rate of inflation. It's implemented. We're almost at I think around zero, close to zero right now. So if it went up to 1%, the economy can certainly handle that increase overall. So the impact on the economy, because we're really talking about a minimum wage, and we estimated that there are less than 5,000 people who are earning less than the medium, which is about under $15 an hour. So you're talking about, and that's a sizable number of the workforce. It's about 15%, I think it is. But that means 85% are there and above. So the impact on inflation, and certainly we're not talking about going from 0 to 15. If it came at 15, you're talking about going from 7, 10, 12, and 13 to 15. So the impact overall will probably be even less than the 1% increase in inflation. So at the minimum level, the impact on the economy is not likely to be that great.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Okay. Go
Kels,
ahead, Jamal.
no, we have a lot of questions, and we don't have much time left, so I just want to go to some of the questions we're getting. You kind of answered this, but Sean Smith's asking, what is the ultimate impact on businesses' operating expenses? Will we be expecting an increase in prices? And I think you kind of already just said that. But Nachika Trot, she's asking, will the living wage guarantee a reduction in poverty levels or persons on financial assistance? But there was another question that I believe she had, which was, well, Carla John saying, can government stabilize the prices of essentials that go into calculating the living wage? Can you take care of both of those questions, or do I need to repeat the first?
Okay. Those persons on financial assistance are individuals who are probably not working or not working at the full level. Most of the people on financial assistance are senior citizens. So the minimum wage is not going to affect them because those individuals will not be likely working in any event. Those who are in between jobs or find themselves, they represent a smaller proportion of those on financial assistance. If they have partial jobs, obviously they're going to benefit. And so the financial assistance will take into consideration that their wages have gone up and they reduce the amount that the taxpayer has to pay. So actually, what you find, certainly in the United States, for instance, that the government subsidizes a lot of those on the lower end because the businesses are not paying them what they really need to survive. So the subsidy, if you will, is reduced from government. So it really doesn't impact financial assistance, but if it does, it will likely be in a more positive way. I can't remember the
Well,
second.
let's go through some other questions because we have a lot to get through. We have Charles H. Jefferson II. How will this work for staff in restaurants and bars who are paid a small salary plus tips?
Okay, so we had presenter in Phil Barnett, and so we're getting input there. So we did carve out that the employer can use the tips as well as that salary to make up the minimum wage, but where in cases they fall short, then the employer has to make it up. So if the minimum wage is $15, that restaurant worker is guaranteed that $15.
Um, Tamara Richardson writes, employers don't reduce wages, they simply hold them steady as the price of goods and services rise and set new jobs at the minimum rate. This really feels like it needs to be tested to avoid some unintended consequences. Is there an opportunity to test it to see how it operates first?
Well, yeah, that's written in the legislation. The first year of implementation, we are to monitor it. So there are certain things that we found in our deliberations, certain things, scenarios that could actually happen. We don't know how they will play out. So there are things that we will look for once government says that we accept this recommendation, and then it's implemented. Then our role switches to monitoring it and getting feedback from uh, certainly both employers and employees in terms of how it's coming out. So that's part of the terms of reference.
Indeed. Carla John says, it's my belief that any human being working full-time hours should be paid enough, well enough to live off, regardless of the job. She goes on to say, we have become way too accustomed to people working multiple jobs to survive. We need to critically examine why this is acceptable in our so-called rich country. Before you leave, is there anything, I mean, what next? How likely is this living wage, minimum wage, how likely is it to come in play? Because I think I read something last month where Minister Jason Hayward was defending basically the time it's taken to happen.
Well, we're kind of late to this minimum wage table. Most Western countries, I think, the ILO, there says that there are more than about 190 or so countries that have some sort of minimum wage. So we're rather late to the table. Since we're starting from scratch, and we have also the mandate to bring in a living wage, so we kind of have to look at that in tandem. So whatever we recommend now, we know that there's something else coming down the pike. So we are certainly well within the terms of reference. And it says within 1 year. We were a little bit late. We were 3 months late because of the pandemic out when we went into sheltering in place. And that seems like such a distant time away, but that was in March of last year. So everything came to a halt. And then when we started up again, so we went back and asked for an extension, which we were given to March 31st. So we were supposed to deliver at the end of December. And so it says the legislation or terms of reference says that 1 year after you recommend the living wage, then you recommend minimum wage, you recommend a living wage. So I don't see how people can say it's taking a long time when we're certainly on schedule, and certainly the bulk of the work now really begins because we have to do impact studies, as some of your listeners have mentioned. How is this going to impact the employee? How is it going to impact the economy? All of those things that we have to do, and so there's a lot of work that's involved, particularly with a living wage.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm running out of time, but one last question, if you can answer this in the most concise manner possible. Graham Smith is saying, is the empirical research implementing a living wage actually stimulates the economy because people now spend their higher wages, which increases business transactions and leads to new hiring?
Oh, definitely. There are a ton of studies. In fact, the living and minimum wage sector of the economics is probably the most researched. So you'll find a ton of studies that show that it stimulates the economy, and you'll find studies that say it doesn't. You'll find studies that say it increases jobs, and you'll find studies that say that it decreases jobs. The information is definitely inconclusive. But most countries, like I said, have a minimum wage, and that's why we can use the examples of other countries. The ILO, which we use a lot of their work, they have a whole regime in terms of how you implement it. So we've been following the guidelines of the ILO. Sitting on the Living Wage Foundation, I have access to experts around the world, and there's the Global Living Wage Alliance, which we can call upon. So I think we have the opportunity to get it as best as we can, and if it takes a little time, it will take some time, but the legislation says that 1 year later. So we have until March 31st. I know if we can do it sooner by farming out some of that critical work, we will do that and get the results in earlier.
All right. Cordell Riley, Chairman of the Wage Commission. I think this is a conversation that everyone, on a topic everyone should be following very closely. it whether it affects you directly or not, it affects us as an economy. So thank you so much for sharing the information that you had, and definitely we will be following it, at least on this show, and keeping people abreast. And if there's anything that you want to make sure that we are aware of to communicate to our audience, please let us know.
Thank you again for having me, and I'll certainly be willing to come back as we progress along this road.
All right, thank you so much, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Michaela. It's nice to see you. I got to talk to you. I've seen you a lot on the screen, so at one point we'll meet in person.
Absolutely, lovely to meet you.
Have a great one.
That's a good term. Thank you so much.
All righty. Going to take a quick break. Thanks again to Mr. Cordell Riley, Wage Commission. Interesting conversation there, as always. Stick with us. Do not go anywhere. I'm going to do some giveaways, and you want to find out how you can win. We're also going to trick Michaela with today's Daily Play. It's happening.
Same smooth sounds, different name. BCG Radio, home of Bermuda's most engaging morning talk shows, The Daily Hour and Good Day Bermuda. Download the app, available for Android and Apple devices. BCG Radio, your station for conversations and entertainment.
All right, welcome back to the big show. Thanks again to Medical House, Lindos, One Communications, friends at Channel 82, everyone who continues to support this show. Also, thanks again to Mr. Cordell Riley from the Wage Commission. If you found some of the information helpful, enjoyed that conversation, you know what to do. Give us a thumbs up, a love, a like, show your appreciation. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel if you want to be involved in tomorrow's conversation. Download the BCG Radio app. It's a 24/7 streaming radio station for mature entertainment. We're going to do the Daily Play. The Daily Play brought to you by Heineken 0.0. Great taste, no alcohol. Here we go. It is Name That Place today. Michaela, what is the most populated country in Africa?
In Africa? Mm-hmm. Oh, dear Lord. Ooh.
We stumped her, folks. We stumped her.
Egypt?
Nope.
South Africa?
Folks, help out. Look, you this is your chance to win something. If you get it before Michaela, you win.
It's not South Africa?
Nope, it's not Ghana.
Nigeria?
She got it before you, folks. She got it before you.
It is Nigeria? Okay.
She got it before you. She got it before you.
I thought it was Nigeria at first, but then I was like, I'm trying to visualize the map, right? And I'm like, is it Nigeria?
Nachika and Nachika Trot and K Flood said it after you said it. Well, they probably typed it, but you came through. But so we're gonna give Nachika something anyway. Because she probably typed at the same time, but it is Nigeria. Nigeria is the most populated, followed by Ethiopia, then Egypt, then DR Congo. I thought we had her this morning, folks. I thought we had her.
Nope.
Look, we're gonna do a little thing, right? So here, as a part of me celebrating 2 years no alcohol today, folks, what we're gonna do is give away a few cases of Heineken 0.0 and some other stuff. Not gonna tell you what that other stuff is. All you have to do, right? There's gonna be a post within the next hour on Instagram. All you have to do to be eligible to win is go on our Instagram post that's asking you to share your favorite things to do in Bermuda that don't include drinking alcohol. That's it. Very easy, right? So
is it?
We're giving away a part of my 2-year celebration. All you have to do is go on our Instagram page. The post will be up in the next hour, right? And share your favorite things to do in Bermuda that don't involve drinking alcohol. Very simple. Very simple.
So I can't say going to the beach to drink rosé.
No. Tails, you got some daily inspiration for us?
I do, yes. Of course, now my phone taps out. This always happens. All right, ready?
Yep.
Choose happy. The rest will sort itself out.
Say it again, sorry?
Choose happy. The rest will sort itself out.
I love it. I love it. Choose happy, folks. Everything will be okay. What's your thoughts on today's episode, Kales?
I love the conversation with Cordell Riley. I wasn't really educated on all the things to do with minimum and living wage. So it was really, really interesting and eye-opening for me. And I really do, I'm a supporter of minimum wage just because there are so many people who are paid way less than what they should ever be paid, and they work their butts off and they deserve to be compensated with that at minimum, whatever the minimum wage is. So
I mean, again, I've been very honest about this. I'm not a fan of living on minimum wage. And the reason is because how I see it operates in the country I live in, the U.S. It's helpful for a large majority of people who are considered minorities. I think it's a better way, and it's got to be a better system. But these conversations are enlightening, so I'm looking forward to see how it, what research says as far as how it's helping Bermuda overall. But we have to go. So thanks again to our partners, Medical House, One Communications, and Lenders for ensuring that we're able to do this with you on a daily basis. If you haven't already, you know what to do, especially if you want to win. You want to go follow and like us on Instagram and Twitter. Don't forget to also subscribe to our YouTube channel, especially if you want to be engaged with the conversation with the Premier tomorrow. As always, we appreciate you, we love you, and we thank you for making us part of your daily routine. If all goes well, we'll be back to do this again with you tomorrow. She's Michaela, and I'm Jamel Hartman. My friends, make it a great day. Peace.